Hello, I'm going to tell you a little story from the beginnings of the internet when people first started to create websites and people would go onto the internet looking for information. And an apocryphal story is that you'd visit a website that you thought was going to be selling cars, and actually it turned out not to be a car sales website, even though it purported to be a car sales website with what it said. It was actually a website that was a porn website. And this led to the development of something which we call SEO, search engine optimization. So what search engine optimization is all about is it's the search engines like Google and Bing who are trying to direct you to the correct site, so that if you type car sales into your search engine, into your query box, you won't actually be directed to a porn site. You will actually be directed to a site that sells cars. And search engine optimization is actually making sure that people are who they say they are, so that the searcher is not misdirected to the wrong site. That's what search engine optimization is, and it's what we're going to talk about today. And don't worry if it sounds really complicated, because although search engine optimization, just the phrase itself sounds very scary, in fact, there's things that you can do, there's little tricks that you can do and use, but mostly what it's about is about making your website really appeal to the people that you want to reach. And that's a bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. It's about making it easy for the people that you want to find your website, for them to be able to find you. So really what SEO is about making our sites really relevant to people and being able to show Google and Bing that we are relevant. And how do we do this? And that's what search engine optimization is all about. It's about learning how web crawlers will interact with our site so that we can make it accessible to people. So web crawlers effectively are like little spiders that weave their way around the web. They go down all the little pages that we've got, and they look for clues to find out who we are. So that's all it is. It's about helping those little web crawlers know who we are. That's what search engine optimization is. And there's things that we can do to make it easier for them to understand who we are. But let's start with the real basics. Now, say you were selling cars, obviously what you would want to have on your website are photographs of cars, descriptions of the cars that you're selling, so that when people arrive on the website, they know they're in the right place. And this is what you need to do with your website as well. It needs to be a place where when people arrive, they think to themselves, yeah, I can get what I'm looking for here. This is the right place for me to be. And being very generic in what you're talking about is something that makes it more difficult for people to know that you are the right person for them, that they're in the right place. So one of the first things you can do to improve your search engine optimization is to think about the types of clients who you're trying to reach. Because if you can talk to them, if you can make your website very relevant to them, when they land on it, they're going to recognize that you're the right person for them. And the upside of this is that you will naturally be putting in the sorts of words and phrases that they might be searching for. Because what you're doing is you're making your website very, very relevant to the clients that you're trying to reach. And that means you'll be indexed like that by the web crawlers. So I would say the number one tip for your SEO is to know who it is that you're trying to reach and making that really clear on your website. And that doesn't take any special knowledge of web crawlers or all the different lingo that you can come across when you're looking at SEO and how to do it. It's all about using the right words that your clients would be using. Now, I do talk a little bit more about this on my latest podcast episode, which is episode 40 of the Good Enough Counsellors podcast. And it's some simple SEO tweaks that you can use. So I can't go into all of them on this short video, but do listen to the podcast to find out more about what I'm talking about. Because when you know who your client is, when you know about what's bothering them, you'll naturally begin to use the words that they use. So, for example, you like working with clients who are finding it difficult to be happily in a relationship. You might use words like relationship counselling. And that will start to reach those people who are looking for something like relationship counselling. And when you know that you're going to be offering keywords like relationship counselling, what you can then do is you can start searching on a keyword search tool to see what other words and phrases might resonate with the type of clients that you're looking for. And you can find free keyword search tools all over the internet. Just pop in a quick Google search and it will direct you to some keyword search tools. So when you know your keywords and you know what's likely to work as well, it's a little bit more complicated than this. I'm just dumbing it down a bit for the purposes of this video. When you know what's going to work, or you can get a good idea of what's going to work by looking at keyword search tools, you can then start using those keywords in your website. And you can begin to give clues to your web crawlers with various techniques. For example, if it's a really important keyword, you would want to get that into a blog post, say, and it would be in the heading of the blog post. And in the podcast, I tell you about different sorts of headings. So you'll want to make sure that the really important keywords are in your blog post title. And the other thing that you might like to think about as well is being quite specific, because actually sometimes people find it much more easy to find a blog when you've actually been really specific about what you're talking about. So I might use what we call a long tail keyword. For example, I could talk about writing your Psychology Today profile, or I could say writing directory profiles, including a template for Psychology Today, which is sort of quite a long title. It would probably be too long, to be honest, but putting something in like Psychology Today means that if people put a search in such as how do I write my Psychology Today profile, that I would come up. So it's using specific words and phrases that your clients may be using. And one little tip that you can have as a very quick tip is that if you do put a search into Google, quite often if you go down the page a little bit, it'll say other people are searching for, and it'll do very similar searches, and that can give you a little bit of a steer as to what else you could say in your blog, how you could meet people's needs, how to bring them to your website. So with the SEO, thinking about what people need to know and what sort of words and phrases they will use, that can really benefit your SEO. And as I say, I go into more detail about this in the podcast. So in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that SEO, it doesn't have to be this big, scary thing. SEO is actually about making yourself as relevant as possible. So going back to my car sales website analogy, you want to make sure that your website is meeting the needs of people who are looking for counsellors. And Google and Bing and all the other search engines need to know that's the case as well. There's lots of different ways that you can encourage them and let them know that you are who you say you are. And there are more details about this in episode 40 of the podcast. But first and foremost, think about who it is you're trying to reach, because that's where it all starts and your SEO can flow from there.